As the sun dipped below the city skyline, casting long shadows across the bustling streets, Eli stood at his drafting table, his fingers tracing the edges of a worn sketchbook. The soft glow of a desk lamp illuminated his face, etching deep lines of concentration around his eyes. He hummed softly, a tune his mother used to sing when he was a child, as he carefully added the final touches to his latest design. Eli had always been a dreamer, his mind constantly filled with visions of soaring towers and elegant structures that would one day grace the urban landscape. But dreams, as he had learned, could be as fragile as the paper his sketches adorned. The news had come like a thunderclap on a clear day. The architectural firm where Eli had poured his heart and soul for years was closing its doors. In the blink of an eye, everything he had worked for seemed to crumble like a house of cards. His job, his savings, even the cozy apartment he called home, all swept away in the tide of corporate collapse. As word spread of his misfortune, well-meaning friends offered what they thought was sage advice. "Be realistic, Eli," they'd say, their voices tinged with a mixture of pity and practicality. "Maybe it's time to let go of designing. Find something stable, something safe." But even as the world seemed to darken around him, Eli felt a quiet stirring in his heart. It was a whisper, barely audible above the clamor of doubt and fear, but unmistakable in its clarity. "I will make a way." He clung to those words like a lifeline, trusting that somehow, someway, God would guide his path. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Each morning, Eli would rise with the sun, his resolve as unwavering as the dawn. He'd sit at his makeshift desk, a wobbly card table salvaged from a neighbor's yard sale, and pore over job listings, his eyes scanning for any opportunity that might breathe life back into his dreams. But the rejections came, one after another, like leaves falling in autumn. Each letter felt like a blow, chipping away at his confidence. The bills, once a manageable stream, now threatened to become a flood. There were nights when the growl of his empty stomach was louder than the traffic outside his window, and instant noodles became both a blessing and a curse, sustenance that kept him alive but reminded him of how far he had fallen. Yet even in these darkest moments, when despair lurked at the edges of his vision, Eli refused to let go of hope. Instead of surrendering to fear, he found solace in the simple act of creation. He would gather his sketchbook and pencils and make his way to the nearby park, finding a quiet bench beneath an old oak tree. There, surrounded by the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant laughter of children, Eli would lose himself in his designs. His pencil danced across the page, bringing to life buildings that existed only in his imagination. With each stroke, he poured not just his talent but his faith into the paper. And as he sketched, he prayed, not grand, elaborate prayers, but simple words of trust and surrender. "Lord," he would whisper, his voice barely audible above the scratch of graphite on paper. "I don't understand your plan, but I trust you. Use these hands, use these dreams, for your glory." One crisp autumn morning, as golden leaves swirled around his feet, Eli sat at his usual spot in the park. His fingers were stiff with cold, but he barely noticed as he focused intently on the sketch taking shape before him. It was a design unlike any he had created before, a building that seemed to reach for the heavens while still embracing the earth. So absorbed was he in his work that he didn't notice the figure that approached until a shadow fell across his page. Startled, Eli looked up to see an older gentleman peering down at his sketch with undisguised interest. "That's quite remarkable," the stranger said, his voice warm with admiration. "May I?" He gestured to the empty space on the bench, and Eli nodded, a mixture of surprise and curiosity flickering across his face. As the man settled beside him, Eli felt a strange sense of calm wash over him. There was something in the stranger's eyes, a kindness, a wisdom, that put him at ease. For the next hour, they talked of architecture and dreams, of challenges and perseverance. The stranger listened intently as Eli shared his story, nodding with understanding at the struggles and smiling at the moments of hope. Just as the sun began to dip towards the horizon, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, the man reached into his coat and pulled out a business card. "Young man," he said, his eyes twinkling, "I believe I have a project that could use your unique vision. Would you be interested in discussing it further?" Eli's heart leapt in his chest, a surge of excitement and gratitude threatening to overwhelm him. As he took the card with trembling fingers, he realized that this moment, this seemingly chance encounter, was anything but random. It was an answer to prayer, a door opening just when he thought all had been sealed shut. That meeting in the park marked the beginning of a new chapter in Eli's life. The project the stranger offered, designing a community center that would serve as a beacon of hope in a struggling neighborhood, was just the first of many. As word of his talent spread, more opportunities followed. Slowly but surely, Eli's designs began to take shape not just on paper, but in steel and glass, rising proudly against the city skyline. With each new building that bore his name, Eli felt a deep sense of awe and humility. He knew that his success wasn't just the result of his own talents or perseverance, but a testament to the faithfulness of a God who had never abandoned him, even in his darkest hours. Years later, as Eli stood atop one of his completed buildings, gazing out at the city he had helped shape, he couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought him here. The struggles, the doubts, the moments of despair, they hadn't destroyed him as he had once feared. Instead, like metal forged in fire, they had shaped him, strengthened his faith, and prepared him for the grand plans God had in store. Reaching into his pocket, Eli pulled out his old sketchbook, the same one he had carried with him through those long months of uncertainty. Its pages were worn, filled with dreams both realized and yet to come. As he flipped through it, a small smile played across his lips. Each sketch, each prayer scribbled in the margins, was a reminder of the quiet voice that had sustained him. I will make a way. In that moment, standing high above the city with the wind rustling through his hair, Eli understood a profound truth. Sometimes, God doesn't remove the fire from our lives. He doesn't always sweep away the challenges or instantly fulfill our dreams. Instead, He uses those very flames, the trials, the setbacks, the moments when all seems lost, to forge us into something stronger, more resilient, and more aligned with His purpose. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow across the cityscape, Eli closed his eyes and whispered a prayer of thanksgiving. For the dreams fulfilled, yes, but more importantly, for the journey that had brought him here. For the fire that had not consumed him, but refined him. And for the faithful God who had been with him every step of the way, making a path where there seemed to be no way. The city below hummed with life, a testament to resilience and hope. And as Eli made his way back down to the streets, his heart was full. He knew that whatever challenges tomorrow might bring, whatever fires he might face, he would face them with faith. For he had learned, through trial and triumph, that sometimes the greatest masterpieces are born not from ease, but from the refining flames of adversity.